What if waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning isn't simply a normal part of getting older? What if your body isn't forgetting how to sleep, but quietly asking for something different? After 60, many people notice the same frustrating pattern. You fall asleep, but wake up hours later. You turn the pillow, check the clock, and wonder why your body won't stay asleep. We're often told this is just aging. But scientists are studying another possibility: the connection between food and the biological systems that regulate sleep, including melatonin, the body clock, the nervous system, and even your gut. And here's the surprising part. Some of the foods being studied aren't expensive supplements or exotic ingredients. They're ordinary foods you may already have in your kitchen. Today, we're exploring 7 food scientists are studying for their potential connection to better sleep after 60. And number 3 may surprise you, because its story begins not in your brain, but in your gut. Stay until number 7, because the final food may reveal why better sleep isn't always about finding something that makes you tired. Sometimes it's about giving your body the conditions it needs to naturally let go and rest. Let's begin. The first food is small, green, and probably much more familiar than you expected. It's the kiwi. When people think about foods that may support better sleep, they usually imagine warm milk, herbal tea, or supplements. Kiwi rarely comes to mind, but researchers have actually studied this simple fruit in people experiencing sleep problems. In one small study, adults who had trouble sleeping ate kiwi before bedtime for several weeks. Researchers observed improvements in measures such as how quickly participants fell asleep, how long they slept, and nighttime wakefulness. The science is still limited, and kiwi is certainly not a natural sleeping pill. But the fruit contains an interesting combination of nutrients, including antioxidants, vitamin C, fiber, and serotonin, a chemical messenger involved in processes connected to sleep. So how could you try it? 1 or 2 kiwis in the evening, perhaps with plain yogurt, could be a simple addition to your routine. The bigger lesson is this: sometimes better sleep doesn't begin with something powerful enough to knock you out. Sometimes it begins with something gentle enough to work with your body. And if this tiny green fruit surprised you, wait until you hear about the next one, because it may have something to do with the clock inside your body. The second food on our list may look like a simple dessert, but scientists are studying it for a very different reason: tart cherries. More specifically, the small, intensely sour cherries often used to make tart cherry juice. Unlike the sweet cherries most people eat as a snack, tart cherries have attracted attention because they naturally contain melatonin, the hormone your body produces as darkness arrives and your brain begins preparing for sleep. Some small studies have found that consuming tart cherry products may be associated with improvements in sleep duration and quality, particularly in people experiencing sleep difficulties. But here's what makes this food especially interesting. Sleep isn't only about feeling tired, it's also about timing. Your body has an internal clock called the circadian rhythm. It helps coordinate everything from hormone production and body temperature to digestion, alertness, and sleep. And as we age, this internal clock can shift. Some people become sleepy earlier in the evening, others wake earlier than they would like, or find it harder to maintain uninterrupted sleep. This is where tart cherries become fascinating. They don't work like a traditional sleeping pill that simply sedates the brain. Researchers are exploring whether their natural melatonin and other plant compounds may support some of the biological signals involved in the sleep-wake cycle. If you want to try them, a small serving of tart cherry juice or the whole fruit may be an option in the evening. Just watch out for products loaded with added sugar. The evidence is still developing, but the idea is powerful. Your body doesn't only need sleep, it needs the right signals at the right time. And sometimes supporting your internal clock may be just as important as trying to feel tired. But the next food takes us somewhere even more surprising, because its connection to better sleep may begin far away from your brain. in a place you probably never expected: your gut. The third food on our list may already be sitting in your refrigerator: kefir, or plain fermented yogurt. For centuries, cultures around the world have enjoyed fermented foods. Kefir has deep roots in the Caucasus region, while yogurt has been part of traditional diets across the Mediterranean and Middle East. Originally, fermentation was simply a way to preserve food. Today, scientists are asking a fascinating question: could the microorganisms in these foods influence the way we sleep? Your gut is home to trillions of microorganisms that interact with your immune system, metabolism, and nervous system. Researchers are studying this communication network, known as the gut-brain axis, and sleep may be part of that conversation. Scientists are investigating whether the gut microbiome can influence inflammation, stress responses, neurotransmitters, and the body's sleep-wake cycle. Some microorganisms may also influence pathways related to serotonin and GABA, compounds involved in nervous system signaling. But let's be clear: eating kefir before bed isn't guaranteed to improve your sleep. The research is still developing. Still, the connection is fascinating. As we age, our diet, digestion, medications, and gut microbiome can change. Supporting digestive health may be one piece of a much larger picture. A simple option is a small serving of plain kefir or unsweetened yogurt, perhaps with a few berries or nuts. Because your brain may be trying to rest while your gut is still sending signals. And sometimes better sleep may begin by changing the conversation between the two. But the next food takes us somewhere completely different. We're leaving the gut behind and moving into the nervous system itself. Because one tiny food contains nutrients your body uses every day to help nerves communicate, muscles function, and your entire system gradually shift toward rest. The fourth food on our list is so small that it's easy to overlook: pumpkin seeds. You may have sprinkled them over salad or seen them in trail mix. But these tiny seeds contain nutrients that make them surprisingly interesting when we're talking about sleep. One of the most important is magnesium. Magnesium supports normal nerve signaling and muscle function, and researchers have been studying whether adequate magnesium intake may support relaxation and healthy sleep, particularly in people who don't get enough from their diet. Pumpkin seeds also contain tryptophan, an amino acid involved in the pathway the body uses to produce serotonin and melatonin. Of course, eating a handful of seeds won't suddenly switch your brain off, but your body needs raw materials to regulate its internal chemistry, and food can provide some of them. Pumpkin seeds have been eaten for centuries, especially in the Americas, where pumpkins originated. Today they're valued for their protein, fiber, healthy fats, and minerals. You can add a small handful to yogurt, oatmeal, or a salad. You don't need a huge amount. The goal is simply to include them in a balanced diet. Because sleep isn't only about closing your eyes, it's about what happens inside your body when you finally stop moving through the demands of the day. Your muscles relax. Your nervous system begins to slow down. Your brain prepares to enter a different state. Sleep isn't something you can force, but you can create better conditions for it. And sometimes those conditions are built from remarkably ordinary things: a few seeds, a balanced meal, a body that has what it needs. But the next food may surprise you even more. It's usually associated with breakfast and morning energy, yet the way it affects your metabolism may have consequences for what happens in your bedroom at night. The fifth food on our list is probably one of the last things you'd expect to hear about in a conversation about sleep: oats. For most people, oats belong to the morning. A warm bowl of oatmeal, some fruit, maybe a little cinnamon. It's the kind of food we associate with starting the day. But what if part of the secret to sleeping better at night begins with how stable your body feels long before you get into bed? Oats are rich in complex carbohydrates and fiber, which can help slow digestion and support a more gradual release of energy. And that matters because your body is constantly trying to maintain balance. After a meal, blood glucose rises and your body responds. Depending on what you eat and how your metabolism works, glucose levels can later fall. For some people, large fluctuations in blood sugar may contribute to nighttime hunger or disturbances. This doesn't mean every nighttime awakening is caused by blood sugar, but it highlights an important connection between metabolism and sleep. As we age, the way our bodies process food can change, making balanced meals even more important. Oats also provide magnesium and other nutrients, while their fiber supports digestive health. You don't need a huge bowl before bed. A modest serving earlier in the evening, paired with protein like plain yogurt and a little healthy fat, may be a more balanced approach. The goal isn't to eat more, it's to create a meal that leaves your body feeling steady rather than overloaded. Because sometimes the food that helps you sleep isn't a sleep food at all. It's simply a food that helps your body stop fighting the night. And now we're getting closer to the final two. The next one is famous as a brain food, but its story doesn't end with memory and concentration. Scientists are also exploring its relationship with the very process that allows your brain to recover while you sleep. The sixth food on our list is one you've probably heard called a brain food: walnuts. Their shape may remind you of the human brain, but the real reason scientists find them interesting is what's inside. Walnuts contain healthy fats, antioxidants, and plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, particularly ALA. These nutrients support overall health, and research has explored how nuts may benefit brain and cardiovascular health as we age. But there is another reason walnuts are interesting when we talk about sleep. They naturally contain melatonin, not in the concentrated amounts found in supplements, but in measurable quantities that have attracted scientific attention. And this brings us to an important point. Sleep isn't simply about feeling tired. Your brain has to coordinate a complex biological process. Your internal clock needs to recognize that it's nighttime, while your nervous system shifts away from alertness. As we age, some of these systems may become less synchronized. Walnuts are fascinating because they bring several pieces together: healthy fats, antioxidants, plant-based omega-3s, and naturally occurring melatonin. Of course, eating walnuts isn't the same as taking a melatonin supplement. Scientists are still studying how much these foods can actually influence sleep. But a small handful added to oatmeal, plain yogurt, or eaten with fruit can be an easy way to include them in a balanced diet. And there's a deeper reason walnuts deserve our attention. We often think of sleep as something that happens to the brain, but while you sleep, your brain is still working, processing information, supporting memory, regulating emotions, and participating in recovery. So better sleep after 60 isn't simply about sleeping longer. It's about giving your brain more opportunities to do the work that helps you live your waking life. And now we've reached the final food. It's connected to one of the most important minerals for your nervous system. And its relationship with sleep isn't really about melatonin. It's about what happens when your body doesn't get enough of something it needs every single day. The seventh and final food on our list is one of the simplest: almonds. They're famous for healthy fats, protein, fiber, and vitamin E. But when it comes to sleep, one mineral makes them especially interesting: magnesium. This mineral is involved in hundreds of processes throughout the body. It supports normal muscle function, nerve communication, and the regulation of many biochemical reactions. And sleep requires your body to shift gears. During the day, you need to be alert and active. At night, your nervous system needs to gradually slow down, your muscles relax, and your brain prepare for sleep. Magnesium doesn't act like a sleeping pill. It doesn't force your brain to shut down. But adequate magnesium is part of the biological environment your body needs to function normally. Some research has explored whether magnesium intake may support better sleep, particularly in people who don't get enough. But not everyone with insomnia is magnesium deficient, and large doses of supplements aren't appropriate for everyone. That's why food is so interesting. A small serving of almonds can provide magnesium alongside healthy fats, fiber, and protein. You might add them to oatmeal, mix them with yogurt, or simply enjoy a modest handful as an evening snack. The real lesson is bigger than almonds. As we age, our bodies change. Sometimes the difference between feeling well and not quite feeling well comes down to getting enough of the basic nutrients our bodies need every day. And perhaps that's why better sleep isn't always about finding something powerful enough to make you tired. Sometimes it's about giving your body what it needs to finally let go. Because your body isn't your enemy at night. It's trying to restore you. And sometimes the smallest choices can help it do exactly that. If you remember only one thing from this video, let it be this. Getting older does not automatically mean giving up on good sleep. Your body changes with age, but that doesn't mean you have to stop paying attention to what it needs. The foods we've explored today are not magic cures. They are pieces of a much larger picture, one that includes your daily routine, your activity, your stress levels, your medications, your health, and the way your body responds to food. Because sometimes better sleep isn't about forcing your body to do something, it's about listening closely enough to understand what it has been asking for. So now I'm curious, which of these 7 foods are already part of your routine? And which one surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I would especially love to know if you have a nighttime food or drink that seems to help you sleep better. And if this video gave you a new perspective on something as simple as what's on your plate, give it a like. Subscribe for more science-backed health discoveries, and share this video with someone over 60 who might benefit from seeing food and aging in a different way. Because sometimes the answer isn't something new you need to find. Sometimes it's something you've had with you all along. You just weren't looking at it that way.